Where do they hide the statues? I love that you guaranteed that I'd been working on this and preparing on this, because I haven't. I actually had been spending the last several days trying to write something about you that's going to be in Rolling Stone, but it's very, very difficult since all the greatest writers in the world have already spent so much time writing about you, and it's difficult to add to that. But actually, when you write anything, when I write anything, it's all about me anyway. It's all about trying to write something that I want to read back, and that's probably why it takes so long. But I can't even write a postcard without ripping it up and throwing it and buying another one and trying to get them. Just know that I was able to eke out a few pages that were this I'm telling you, I spent last night writing about him. I'm going to have to work tonight too, because it's, being just a little bit competitive. I'd like to thank my mother and my father, who brought me up in a house filled with music and books, and my sisters, and my brother, who taught me to play piano and allowed me to sort of appropriate his piano style. I was sort of a folk purist, and my brother kept learning these great rock and roll songs that he got off the radio, but he wound up playing them at home on the piano by himself, and I sort of learned to do that from him. I feel fortunate to have grown up in the bosom of a bunch of friends and musicians and people who all wrote and who all learned each other's songs and who learned my songs and sang them back to me. My sister's older friends my older sister's friends, Greg Copeland and Steve Noonan, who started me writing songs. I'd like to thank Lowell George and the great California band Little Feat, who is always a sort of a mentor, not only to me, but to so many of our other friends. Warren Zevon, who is a personal hero of mine and who I learned so much from by being allowed to work with him. J.D. Souther, Don Henley, and Glenn Fry, who I spent a lot of time singing with. Once again, we learned each other's songs and sang them back to each other. I'd like to thank Billy and Judy James, who took me to live in their house in Laurel Canyon, where so much was going on, and really introduced me to so many record producers and engineers and musicians, and to Jack Holzman, who they got him to sign me to a publishing contract. And Jack Holzman was the record man that, and so many of you know him, but who founded Elektra Records on the back of his motorcycle. And he literally used to take the records on the back of his Vespa to the various record stores in New York, and who was a mentor to so many folk musicians. And at the same time he was doing that, and he would explain he only needed one hit from the Doors to pay for the 100 other records that he would make of people who were nuanced and unusual and one of a kind, but who were not necessarily going to make the top of the charts. And so I'd like to thank him for instilling that ethic in me, that it is not necessarily those who sell the most or who make the biggest splash in the mainstream media, but those people whose work stands for what they do. And I'd like to thank David Geffen, who believed in my songs and who took me to so many other record companies to see if they would sign me, and finally, out of frustration, just decided to start his own label and gave us me and the Eagles and David Blue and so many others a place to begin making our own recordings on our own terms. I'd like to thank David Crosby, who agreed to come and sing on my first record, and who sang on so many of my best songs, and Graham Nash, who joined him in doing that, and who became, along with my great friend, one of my best all-time, lifetime friends, Bonnie Raitt, a co-conspirator in political activism and trying to harness popular music as a force for social change. I'd like to thank John Landau for the work that he did on my Pretender record, and for the influence he had on me when I met him, and for being a person that I could talk to about what I wanted to say, and for encouraging me, and for teaching me how to talk to musicians. He would excuse himself for a moment and say, "Can I just have a brief word with the piano player?" And he'd come back a few minutes later, and this enormous changes, this wonderful power that was inherent in the structure of the song, but which hadn't come out yet, would suddenly appear. And he also got me to focus on trying to get a drum sound, which before that was absolutely of no importance to me whatsoever, and which has since then sort of ruled my existence. I'd like to thank all the writers who wrote about my music and helped popularize what I was doing and helped communicate the nuances of my music. I'd like to thank all the DJs and people in radio, the self-empowered people who played what they wanted to play and played me. I thank you for that. I'd like to say how fortunate I feel to have gotten to play with the musicians I've played with. And to me, if I give myself any credit at all, it's that I got them to play what they wanted to play. Because in the beginning, you'd make records, and they would expect you to make 3 of them in a 3-hour session. And, well, we've changed all of that, because now we spend years making a song. But there are so many musicians I feel so fortunate to have played with, and chief among them would be my longtime collaborator and musical mentor, David Lindley. The musicians who joined David and I and played on Running on Empty: Russ Kunkel, Craig Durkee, Danny Korchmar, Lee Sklar, Bob Glaub, Doug Haywood. There are far too many musicians I feel should be thanked, but if I do, we'll be here all night. I just want to thank everybody that ever came and played and sang and worked on my records for what they gave my music and for giving it the soul whatever soul it has. Finally, I'd like to thank the various people that have helped me raise my children, and who have, and especially my second wife, Lynn, who has done such an outstanding job with our son, Ryan. But I'd like to thank my son, Ethan, who's here tonight, and my 2 nephews, Jeremiah and Shane, who are both here tonight, for accompanying me and for standing by me as I worked. And I would also like to thank my partner of 12 years, my stunning mystery companion, Deanna Cohen. I'd just like to say what an honor it is to be inducted in the company that's here tonight, in the company of these people who have made such a difference in my life, and who are the embodiment of the values that I've tried to bring to my music. Like Jan, I think music is a force and a power for good in this world. And I'd like to reiterate what he said when he quoted John and say, war is over if you want it. And I look forward to seeing what happens in the next year and the next... There's something I'm quoted as having said in your program. It'll say that I often am asked about music and politics, and I answer, but it's actually not something I said. It's something little Stephen said, and which I generally give him credit for when I do say it. But for some reason tonight in this book, it's not credited, but it's something he said, which is, what is more personal than your politics? So I want to thank you for allowing me to put my personal politics inside the songs, and for listening to them, for hearing them, and say that music is a very empowering thing. I'm happy to have had a lifetime do it. Thank you for this job, and thank you for this honor.